I'm ready. There are few people who struggle next to the sweets.
Welcome, everyone. Besides our revered guest, Rabbi, we also have a special guest today with us. Christian Sheeran is here from Auburn Seminary. He worked at Luther Seminary before that, so that's the big credit. But he is here on behalf of Auburn Seminary to do some learning about how the Tri-Faith works, what kind of programming we're doing, how the people are interacting, what the whole commons area is over there, and how the building's going, all that kind of stuff, because they have programs at Auburn Seminary that deal with interfaith relationships and doctoral programs and helping all kinds of religious leaders deal with the questions of interfaith conversation. And Auburn wants to somehow partner with Tri-Faith in sending students back and forth and all that kind of stuff. And we have no idea what that conversation looks like. So they are gracious enough to spend the money to come to us, which is terrific, so we can start those conversations and get going. So Christian is here for that purpose. So welcome.
Welcome.
Everybody say hi. And this is the first part of his education, right? You went to Taste of Tri-Faith yesterday? Yeah?
I feel the pressure. Totally.
Thanks.
Good morning. Just to, again, give you the introduction that leads into the new Torah portion. Remember, I'm bringing here Torah portions. This is Mas'eh, and this is again from the book of Numbers. And again, the relationship to the Hasidic traditions. And today we're going to spend some time trying to understand why it took them 40 years in the desert. Anyone has an idea? What?
They kept sinning.
They kept sinning. I mean, God knew from the beginning that none of them will make it to the end. Why to torture them? Why not to just zap them there in the desert?
I know it's been told that it's because Moses wouldn't stop and ask directions.
That's absolutely true. He forgot to ask a woman for direction. That's exactly the commentary. But it's, yes?
I thought it was that they needed to grow out of the slave mentality.
Yeah, beautiful. But then they were not rewarded for that. Yeah. So it's tragic. It was easy, I mentioned before, to get them out of Egypt. It was very hard to get Egypt out of them. I mean, think about ourselves and the difficulty sometimes to remove the darkness from inside our souls. It's easy maybe to move physically, but it's a lot harder to work emotionally, spiritually, intellectually from some of the sinful places we have been. So you'll hear today a little bit of a different kind of understanding. So let's, from the first page, let's read the quotation from the book of Numbers. Who would like to read on the top of the page? Because this is the text that we're going to address. Yes, loud.
These are the journeys of the children of Israel who came forth from the land of Egypt in their hosts, by the hand of Moses and Aaron. Moses wrote their comings forth and their journeys by the word of God. And these are their journeys and comings forth.
Okay. So continue with your voice, loud. What value?
What value is there in having these stories in the Torah, which is to serve all generations as a guide to God's service? That is what the word Torah means. What happened, happened after all.
And now comes in the name of the Baal Shem Tov. Remember, who is the Baal Shem Tov? The Baal Shem Tov is the master of Hasidism. I mean, he is the man that started the movement. We don't have anything of his writings. What the writings are coming here from the disciples that watched him and were inspired by him, and they're the one that kept his words in the teaching they have done. So again, not from the master himself, and remember what I told you about the meaning of his name. Baal Shem Tov, the master of the good name. That was not really his original name, but this is how he's known by his disciples. And that's how the stories are moving from generation to generation. So this writing comes from a book, you can see the name of the book, Or Haganuz Latzadik. This is a book that the title is The Hidden Light for the Tzaddik. Tzaddik, what's a tzaddik? Righteous individuals. So tzaddik or tzaddikim, plural, is a righteous person. That's how they call themselves. That's how they name themselves. Or is light. Or, in Hebrew, means light. Or ganuz, the hidden light, that only was available into the small group of disciples of the Baal Shem Tov. It was a very close group that produced lots of materials that enable Jews in the 18th century to join a Hasidic movement instead of the legalistic Talmudic teachings. Talmud was important. Talmud helped them conduct their daily life, but they wanted more than just the legalistic explanation of Judaism. They wanted a little bit of the sound, different kind of a sound. It's okay. I used to scare my people when I was a rabbi, saying that if I hear the phone rings, we're going to start the service from the beginning. That really killed any kind of sound of the telephone. So continue in the name of the Baal Shem Tov, please. Let's continue.
In the name of the Baal Shem Tov, when you are traveling and therefore cannot pray and study in your usual way, you must serve Yahweh in other ways. Do not be distressed by this, for God needs to be served in all ways, sometimes one and sometimes another. That is why it came about that you needed to travel in order to serve God in this way.
Okay, so another explanation for why so much traveling took place in the desert. Hasidism suggested, so you see, for example, a wagon broken on a side road, and this is time for the morning service, morning prayer. A person that is not clear about what Hasidism is will say, oh my God, look at those people trying to fix the wagon during the morning service. Bad Jews. A Hasid, Baal Shem Tov, said, no, let them fix because they need to travel for business. And this is another way of serving God. They will be meditating. So again, the legalistic versus the spiritual. Hasidism was the doorway into a spiritual, deeper, meaningful life for the Jews that were overburdened with living, making a living in a minority, as a minority in all those places where Hasidism emerged. I'm talking about Poland, Russia, that area. And so there was a way of a person looking at the people who are fixing the wagon and saying instead, okay, that's part of the way they're going to worship God, fixing. So even in the fixing, even in the everyday work of individual, they're a way of celebrating God. And so instead of accusation, how dare you guys during prayer time in the morning are fixing the wagon, one will find kind words to say and look at their work as another expression of their devotion to God. Yes?
So is that the foundation of Reform Judaism?
not, okay, so Reform Judaism is a religion of about 250 years already. Uh, uh, I think you have in Reform Judaism definitely the joy and the simcha, the exaltation that comes from Hasidism. But I just want to make sure that you're aware that even if you're a Hasidic Jew, the obligations, the Orthodox obligations are still on your shoulders. So you have, in Orthodox Judaism, you have segments that are Hasidic Jews. So Hasidic Judaism is part of, modern Hasidic Judaism is part of Orthodox Judaism, but they have a way of celebrating it by adding a tremendous amount of joy and devotion and cleaving to God in a way that some modern Orthodox don't observe that relationship to God. So again, I think that I always believe that Reform Judaism has a segment in it that can become manifestation of Hasidic Judaism. Orthodox Jews don't look upon Reform Jews as the continuation of Hasidism, but that's a whole different kind of presentation that I need to make. But if you are seeing in Reform Judaism segments of Hasidism, good for you. I feel good. I feel good. No, yeah, there's a way of devotion to God. We are liberal Jews. I'm a liberal Jew. I don't observe all the 613 commandments. I mentioned to you that it's impossible for any Jew to observe all the 613 commandments. Why? Why there is no Jew that observes all the 613 commandments? Because some of the commandments are in relationship to the building of the temple in Jerusalem. Thank God, sorry, thank God we don't have the third temple in Jerusalem. I mean, we really made major strides after giving up the cult of sacrifice of animals, which was a question that I was addressed before. So I'm not yearning, I'm not dreaming about building the third temple in Jerusalem. I will fight that because, by the way, the location of the building of the temple will be where? Where in Jerusalem the plans to build the third temple are going to be? I mean, this is the hot real estate in Jerusalem. You have, on that spot, you have two very important mosques for Islam. The option of building a third temple on that location will actually lead to a third world war. So I'm pretty happy not having it. I also don't want to go back to the cult of the shish kebab. I don't want to go back to the priests. Priesthood is dead. Now, I have to tell you that there are plans. There is a segment of Jews in Jerusalem, and when you go there, you can visit their museum. They are ready for the restoration of the third temple. So they have all the plans. They already collected materials that used to be in the temple in Jerusalem. They know this from the Bible. They know it from all kinds of resources. They have the measurements. They have the wonderful wood ready. They are ready. They're crazy, but they're ready. Why does it have to be there? There has to be built on the same place where the altar that Abraham built to sacrifice his son was there. It's all about that place. It's the same place, according to Jewish tradition where Abraham built the altar to sacrifice Isaac. The same location.
You need to build a tri-faith campus there.
From your mouth to God's ears. How about starting here, where we have it now? Yeah. Or as the Muslims say, inshallah, may it will be God's will. Yeah, but it didn't start this way. So, I mean, there's so much bad blood on that spot. I don't know if you're watching the news and you see what's happening in Jerusalem, and you see the kitchen knives that are being held by young Palestinians trying to hurt Israeli citizens, Jews. I mean, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen in my lifetime. But hopefully, this tri-faith, we're going to franchise it like McDonald's. So it will be in all kinds of places in America and maybe in Europe, and we'll see what happens. I don't know if you heard, but last night in Paris, the entire Jewish cemetery in Paris was desecrated by anti-Semites. So you still have issues. Europe, I said this before, I'll make a statement here, and I know I'm recorded. I think Europe is still trying to get rid of the Jews. I mean, it's a terrible sentence, what I'm saying, but there are so many manifestations of anti-Semitism in Europe that it's hard to even monitor them.
What's being said, what's being happening in Poland right now.
Yeah. The Polish example is a terrible example. So in Poland, the parliament passed a law that if you are going to ever blame Polish people for participating in the annihilation of Jews during the Nazi occupation, you get 3 years in jail. So they are washing their hands completely from collaborating with the Nazis. But we know, I mean, Jews know what happened. Even after the war, when Jews came back to their villages in Poland, there were pogroms and massacre of Jews after surviving the concentration camps by Polish people. They are not ready to do what Germany has done. Germans took complete responsibility through reparations and through lectures and educating the young people about what happened. Polish people are not ready yet. The Polish government is not ready yet. So there is a very, very bad exchange now, political exchange, between the state of Israel, where most of the Polish Jews found a refuge. And they, of course, cannot forget what happened to them, and the Polish government. We'll see what happens. The Holocaust is still with us, guys. 75 years after, it's still here. It's still here. And we have Jews in America that feels guilty for not doing anything during the Holocaust. You have an American government that didn't do anything what they had to do, which is to bomb the railroads that led to the concentration camps. It was so easy to do, but there was no intention of getting involved in the war. So, I mean, we still need to deal with this. Definitely we need to deal with this as less and less survivors exist. I mean, the work that Spielberg did in recording all the survivors, so many of the survivors, it's going to stay forever. Wow. We really wandered in our desert to a whole different place. Okay, so now comes the work. Who would like to start reading here? Now comes the work of explaining the verses. Remember how this works. There is Hasidic teaching, but you start by explaining the biblical text. And you will see that they will explain the biblical text very different than what we have known. So who is ready to read? These, from the word these. Please.
These are the journeys of the children of Israel. Their journeys too were for the sake of serving Yahweh. That is why they were written in the Torah.
Yeah, I mean the question is, why do we have to care about their journey in the desert? Why is it important? Why they constantly repeat this in the book of Numbers, and then later in the book of Deuteronomy, Moses gives a big speech and repeats again? Who cares? Those are not journeys into Europe with postcards. This is not a cruise journey. Why do we care about this? So the answer here is, those journeys were taken for the sake of God. Continue.
Who came forth from the land of Egypt?
That's from the verse. Continue.
Because there they were, not located directly below the upper land of Israel, Shekinah,
Go.
above the earthly Jerusalem.
Okay, so those journeys took place where? In the desert, far away from Jerusalem. So why were they important? Continue. Now comes the answer.
Where the roots of souls, their hosts, are to be found. They came forth to their hosts by the hand of Moses and Aaron, who embraced within them all the souls of Israel.
Yeah, that journey was for the souls, not for the bodies. The journeys in the desert were for the souls. To do what? What is the purpose of the Hasidic teaching? You have to get the soul inside of each one of us back to where? The root. Who is at the root? God. You need to combine the soul of the Israelites, and the Israelites are, in the time of the Hasidic writing, are not, no one cares about the people who left Egypt. It's about the people of their day. The job of the Hasidic masters was to bring God to the knowledge, to the understanding, to the awareness of the people of their time. This is what Chris does to you. You don't know it, but her goal and Eric's goal and my goal was always to connect the root of the people in my community, in my congregation, to what? To God. That's our job. We're in the job of making soul connected to the source, to the root. Chris, maybe you can put it on your card. Soul seeker, totally a soul seeker. Soul seeker with a purpose. So now comes, and who helped? Of course, Moses and Aaron served in doing it. That was their job. And now comes the Hasidic overtone. Who wants to read this, please? All their journeys. Anyone?
All their journeys represent sublime rungs and aspects through which they merited to come into the land of Israel. Had they not sinned by the golden calf and the spies, they would not have needed so many journeys and rungs. Just a few steps would have brought them to the land. Because of sin, however, they had to go rung by rung in order to reach that goal.
Back to what before. So the Hasidic world looks like what? Pipes. I mean, try to stairways to heaven. We are all surrounded with opportunity to climb up. Egypt was such a place of sinfulness. They had to get out. They had to get out in order to repair, resurrect their souls. They made major transgressions in the desert. That's why they needed to continue the journey forever. That's why it took 40 years. By the way, if you have a good camel, from Egypt, from Cairo, to the promised land, with a good camel, 3 days maximum. Well, I mean, it has to be a good camel. Oh, they have enough in the camel belly to store the water. Yeah. By the way, all the stories about the wells and the seeking water in the desert was about the wisdom that they needed to acquire. I mentioned to you before that when you read water in the desert, it's never about water. It's about what? Torah, wisdom, commandments. So the reason why they got stuck in the desert for 40 years was because of two major transgressions. The golden calf and the spies. We covered the spies in one of our classes as a sin of disbelief, of lack of faith. A few weeks ago, actually, we started with the spies. I mentioned to you that only two people made it at the end of the desert. What were the names of the two spies that made it all the way in the end? What? Joshua and Caleb. Oh my God, my best student. Write down that what we should do is a Bible quiz of Old Testament in a tri-faith. What do you mean oi? Oi. Oi is already a Jewish word. Oi. You guys are becoming too Jewish too fast. I don't like it. Anyway, I love it. Beautiful. Those are the only two that made it. All the rest of the generation of the spies failed, and they failed also with the golden calf. What is the story of the golden calf? What happened there?
They took all their jewelry and everything, and they melted it together, and they built the calf.
With the instructions of Aaron. Yeah. Aaron, who is known in Jewish tradition as peace-loving, that's why he's known as peace-loving, because he tried to win time. Moses got stuck. I don't think Moses was aware that he's going to the top of the mountain for a conversation of 40 days and 40 nights. God, what am I doing here? You're going to receive everything that anyone ever will discover about the religion. He was there like a good pupil with not so much with an iPad, but he got all of the wisdom according to tradition, Jewish tradition. He got all the written Torah and the oral Torah. What is oral Torah in Jewish language? What is the oral Torah? The written Torah, you know. It's the scriptures you have. What is the oral Torah? Talmud, Mishnah, everything that will ever be written, it's known as the oral Torah. And in Jewish tradition, both written Torah and oral Torah, scriptures and the oral Torah, are at the same level of holiness because they came from the same prophet. The only prophet that saw God face to face. So Moses has an amazing stature in Jewish tradition. He brought it all. He is the pipe that brought everything into existence. Now, back to Reform Judaism, because you need to know something about us. Reform Jews have a great appreciation of the oral law, but not as deeply involved with the oral law as Orthodox Jews. And that's why they don't like us. Do you know, by the way, that Jews don't like each other? No, it never happens in Christian circles. But we have a constant debate with the Orthodox Jews who don't, for example, recognize me as a rabbi because I'm not coming from the lineage of Moses. So, for example, in Israel, I cannot officiate in weddings because in Israel there's no separation of church and state. In Israel, the church is Orthodox Judaism. So Reform Jews and conservative Jews are not recognized. They can have their synagogues, but their rabbis cannot do what?
I was just telling him that's why you left Israel.
Oh, that's one of the reasons.
I'm sure.
Yeah. One of the reasons. That's not the only reason.
I'm sorry.
No, but that's the role of the psychiatrist. He's going now to analyze me completely. That's the reason. There are hundreds of reasons, but it's okay. We'll talk about it. I'm willing to go to your couch. I love this kind of relationship. That's a little bit about Reform Judaism in Orthodoxy, which you started. So in order to repent for the golden calf and the spies, they needed to go on a stairway to try to reach higher rung. Guess what the conclusion is? We know what happened. The conclusion is what? None of them made it except the two. The only two that were capable of understanding the truth about the journey. They were the only one that made it. It's very tragic that none of the other was able to make it. So the level of sinfulness that those people experienced in Egypt, it was impossible to take it out of their souls. I need to bring a poem written by one of the national poets of Israel about the generation of the desert. I mean, the tragedy is unbelievable. Now, let's take that story let's move it to us. Because it's not about them. I'm not teaching about them. I want to connect them to us. We need to be careful in our lives, in the relationship to God, and what we do with our lives, not to become the desert generation. I mean, the tri-faith activity that you want to duplicate in Jerusalem, God bless you. I mean, I don't know how you came up with that idea. That's a lot more pioneering than what we are doing. But that's how we're trying to do there. I mean, this connection and this, I think that's a place where the stairway exists. That's why we're not going to change the name of the creek. I hope not. I want to keep the name there. Because that's the lower rung of the stairway. That little creek there that is called Hell Creek. But that's what we have to do in our individual, in our religious lives, in our community life. How do you raise a community? On the rungs to get to a place where everyone is welcome, when everyone is appreciated, when everyone is part of the community, and if someone doesn't come for a few weeks, we are inquiring where they are. Thank God you were on a cruise, but we worry about you because you are not sitting on this seat. That's the way community moves. So those are the stories of the Bible. The stories of the Bible are there for us. They are not the stories for the people that lived in those days. They are gone. We need to look at ourselves as the generation of the desert. This world of ours, do I need to present to you sins and transgressions that are at the same level of the golden calf? Come on. If I open this conversation for you to tell me, if you can find parallel transgression to the generation of the desert, they had spies and golden calf. Should I line up everything that upsets us now at this moment in America? I'd love to be political, but I need to keep my status. I mean, take the immigration. Okay, so I gave up. So, and what? Yeah, I don't have any status. I'm retired. So I can say whatever I want. But I said whatever I wanted before. Nothing changed. But this issue of immigration, of locking the doors, of not saving, for me, is about saving 6 million memory in my head when America had quotas. What about other people? I mean, those are repeating. So all of us have biblical minds in a way. If we know our Bible well, we will always find connections to our lives. The difficulty is when we don't know our scriptures well and we don't find a way to connect. But scriptures have it all. They'll all show everything that will ever happen. Nothing is new under the sun, says Ecclesiastes. There's so much truth to that statement. There's nothing new under the sun. Now the question is, what do we do with it? Yes?
I'm thinking about all the people who were in the desert who were really trying, but there were so many that were messing up. It affected everyone. And
Beautiful. Oh my God. So look at what you said just now. They couldn't rise on their rungs because there were so many other people that pulled them down. But this is what can happen in any community. It happens in families. What is the price we pay for members of family that are not following the right line? Yes, absolutely. The wisdom is coming from toddlers. But it's the family, it's the community, everything can pull us down. Our job is to try to raise everyone up. I mean, but that requires this incredible awareness. And awareness comes from understanding and studying and learning and looking at the generations that came before us and how we can be better. America was built with a very wrong concept, which is everyone for themselves. Go west, young man. There is something that is corrupt and wrong in the setup of this amazing country of ours. We need to repair this. And communities can repair it. When you move away from the individual, I'm not suggesting that individuality did not bring wonderful things to America, but community is missing. I have difficulty with gated communities. I don't know what to do with this. I have difficulty with this care, this obsession with me. The discussion about individual rights. Okay, I love individual rights, but do they need to come on the backs of other people that also are seeking rights and they can't get it? I'm sometimes worried about how much we worry about animal rights without talking about what we need to do in order to be good in relationship to the animals. I will never forget many years ago, New York Times, front page, the horse Secretariat died. You know, the Triple Crown horse. Oh my God. Pictures, stories, amazing stuff about the horse. Things that you never wanted to know. But you know, it was front page. Actually, it went to second and third page. And then 12th page, on the 12th page, there was a story about a helicopter crash of 4 people that were camera people that died in one of the jungles. So, horse, front page, I'm exaggerating, but it's, where's the balance? Where's the balance? Okay, let's continue. Now comes the teaching. The same is true of every person. Look at what Hasidic masters do with the small little story about the desert. Who would like to read this, please?
All our journeys are for the sake of heaven. In accord with good deeds done, some people need only a few such journeys to reach a place of constant rest, both in this world and the one that is to come. The burdens of livelihood and worldly matters are lifted from him in order to attain that place.
Yeah, we need one simple place, all of us. All of us are looking for one simple place. A place of rest, of complete awareness, of being able to be human. I mean, some of us, that's why we never should judge anyone. We should not judge anyone besides ourselves because we don't know if they're there or not and what are the circumstances that led them to be on that wrong. And how come they're not responding the way I want them to respond? This judging that takes place is absolutely a serious transgression. Can we stop judging people? Because life is complicated? Because the climbing is difficult? Why can't we be happy with where they are at this moment without judging, but offering our help to raise them to a different rung? Judging is what really eats communities. Why can't we be busy with other sports? There's only one judge. Let's leave the judging to God. Why do we want to do God's job? We're not required to do God's job. God is big enough to do everything by herself. It's interesting how sometimes we take tasks that are not really given to us. What is this feeling after we judge someone? How do we feel anyway after doing it? Awful. And 90% of the time we are wrong. We are wrong because we don't know anything about their lives. Anything about their lives. We don't know about the burdens of their lives. Oh, I know how you feel. Yes, really? That's the worst sentence that one can say to someone after a loss. Even if you experience loss, keep it to yourself. Hug them. Find other ways to communicate. Bring them a dish. Check them half a year later when no one is there. Instead of saying, I know exactly how. Exactly? What the hell are you talking about? But this is part of the judging that takes place. So I think start practicing less judging. Yes?
Don't you think we're doing more judging right now with, my group's been reading a sociologist who talks about how siloed we are in this political environment. That 80% of the electorate either had a landslide for Trump or a landslide for Hillary. That we don't associate of different opinions and different viewpoints. So consequently, in our tribes, we do more judging. And I certainly find myself guilty of that.
We don't know. I mean, we know what that person voted for, and we don't want to talk to them. Yeah, totally.
And thus we judge.
Yeah, that's
There's a distinction that is so difficult right now, I think, to make between thinking of or speaking truth to power versus really trying to find a commonality in our humanity, and then
yeah. The Tri-Faith Initiative is an opportunity for that conversation to take place.
yeah, although I think in many ways we are pretty unified in much of our perspective within the faith.
Well, you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised how wrong you are. I mean, there will be things that will be said in the Tri-Faith forums that will boil our blood. Can we continue sitting there? This will be the test. I mean, there will be things that when finally the real conversations start, beyond the food, which is delicious, I am ready for those conversations. I'm looking forward and be able to sit and listen to the imam or listen to the rabbi or listen to the minister and not jump and do this.
I think that's listening is the issue. We are all in such a fast-paced world right now that we don't take the time to sit and listen to each other with an open mind. We have our feelings, we express our feelings, and we're off to the next thing. But what we're going to have to do is to take that time. If we don't take that time, then we won't come to a consensus or anything like that. And
Amen.
to listen.
Amen. Amen.
is important.
Amen. I totally agree with you. Yes.
But it's also, I think, just kind of sitting with the anxiety that I might be wrong about whatever the issue is that we're talking about. That I might have lived my life and about some things, not me, of course, but and I'm wrong. I've just been wrong.
So what will happen at that moment?
Well, I think when I think about times that I'm wrong, I think about trying to understand why I got to where I was and accepting and forgiving.
Beautiful. So I think there's enlightenment that comes at the end of the process. I think one needs to train themselves to be able to do this on a regular basis. What is this once a year Day of Atonement? What is this crap? No, atonement has to take place every day. Not once a year. You know, we have those holidays. We put all our religious fervor in those holidays, and we feel empty because holidays can happen every day. It's what we do with our days. Day of Atonement. Once a year, and Jews, you know, we have those difficulties in all the communities. This I'm sure it's happening here too. This expectations on Easter or Rosh Hashanah or Ramadan from the clergy to bring us heaven down. Wait. If you guys are coming and expecting the clergy to bring heaven down to you, what are you coming with? I love the conversation at the end of the Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. You know, the place where you find most of the Jews coming out of guilt, and because they want to be seen by other Jews that they are there. It's like the rabbi makes a, God. Some people have plastic surgery. God doesn't recognize them. No, so that's why, you have to be careful of those plastic surgery. You have to come back once a year looking the same. I'm just joking. But this idea of expecting revelation happening on that day when the 364 other days were blank, it's not going to happen. I mean, we go to those places and we expect this, but it's very important what we bring to the moment of the encounter on those holidays with our clergy. Yes?
Well, it's also interesting thinking politics, I guess, in particular, but in life also, that how much we value staying the same. If a politician changes their mind, there's a flip-flopper, and, we've talked about it as a terrible thing. There was an interesting interview last night with Kristen Senator Gillibrand of New York, and I don't know how I feel about her, but they brought up the fact that some of her positions, she's been accused of just changing her mind on things that are better politics. And she said, no, I was wrong. That's
refreshing coming from your politicians.
Yeah, I mean,
The growth.
But this church has done it. I mean, that's why I feel so comfortable being here and teaching. You guys decided to move. You guys actually decided to leave Egypt. I'm not suggesting that it was bad here at all, but
That makes the ones wandering in the desert.
yeah.
The next generation's going to be the ones
Yeah, we're not
that
gonna make it.
I have good news for you. You're going to make it. You're going to make it. We're all going to make it to next March or April, whenever it's finished. But what's the difference between the wandering from the desert in scriptures and this wandering? You still have all kind of questions, all kind of discomforts. Hopefully we'll move in the right way, that we're going to go up and move through the runs and feel good about what we are doing. But it's very parallel in a way. Thank God it's not a desert. And by the way, it is possible there was never a desert. Are you ready for that news? I wonder what really happened there. All right, let's continue with the next one. So now comes the last of the verse, and these are their journeys and coming forth. Continue. Whoever read the last one.
The end shows that the journeys of the ancestors are assigned for their children. These are a person's journeys, even in later times. They are journeys and comings forth. We journey as things come forth, including adventures and woes. The reward matches the pain. According to the pain we take on to attain perfect service, so do we journey toward attachment to Yahweh and constant rest.
That's what the journeys in the desert. Remember, they used to journey and then rest. Journey and rest. There was a cloud and fire, and those were the guides in the desert. This is our lives. What they did is a sign for us of what we are going to do, what we are doing actually with our lives. So all the stories there are for our benefit, both in the Old Testament and New Testament, and the Quran. They're all about journeys. And they are a sign for us. So what happened to the patriarchs are lessons for us. Patriarchs and matriarchs are for us. Yes?
And why do we continue to make the same mistakes? And the reason I ask that is because, and something brought that home to me the other day, I was watching a thing about Truman, and what he went through during World War I, et cetera, and how he was all about globalism and helping people and getting out there and making sure that you're involved in the world and the world's involved with you. While there were people in Congress who were isolationism. We're back to that again, except it's the other way around.
America first. I want to make America great. I don't give a shit about the rest of the world.
I don't.
Except Russia.
At that time, was the isolationist. He was the one at that time that was, or not Hitler, but the Germans at that time. Why do we keep making the same mistakes? Because we're human? Or we don't listen to history?
Because we are godless. Because we are godless, not because we're human.
Explain what you mean by saying
Well,
that we are godless.
Well, we're not perfect. And I think what's missing sometimes is our awareness to see the world around us as God, in God's creation. I don't think we associate in everyday life this amazing world that we have and the connection between the Creator and the creation. That's the gap between understanding the role of the Creator in the creation and our life as human beings and as a gift. I mean, it's such a gift to be here. What?
I was just
Sharon.
going to use the word, when you say godless, I think of the word we're disconnected. We're not connected.
We're not connected to something larger than ourselves. Yeah.
God is always there for us, but we don't always.
He's available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we think, there are people, I'm not going to say we, because I don't want to think of any of us like this, but, so that there are people in the world who think that they are bigger than God?
Yeah, basically all the politicians. I think, they all go and pay their tribute once a year. They go to church. Every politician likes to have pictures of them with religious leaders. And then that's just a picture. To tell us what? We don't know anything about their beliefs. And to be able to connect a person in North Korea to an American, why is it so hard to understand that a person in North Korea has the same desires, the same dreams, they don't have the same possibilities because of their politics. But to connect, the connections between human beings. One of the things I admire about Christian churches is their missions. Jews, we need to introduce this to Jews. Chris, write this down. The tri-faith need to have missions, because the mission for my people was always in Israel. We need to bring our kids to Israel. The only thing they know is Israel. They don't understand the rest of the world that needs help and assistance. Or if they will go, part of it is because of the fact of our history. We are so injured by our history that I don't know how we're going to be healed. We're not going to be healed. We can only be healed by you guys, by the tri-faith. The only way healing can come to the Jews, to my community, is by the tri-faith. By the way you're going to invest and show them what they need to do. What they need to do is to create a system, a missionary idea. We are so afraid of the word missionary because Jews, God forbid, we should. You heard my opinion. I think Jews have to start missionary work. Why not? Why not to show the joy, the Jewish tradition, the Jewish writings to the rest of the world? Why do people need to know only New Testament? What's wrong in introducing Old Testament, but in the light that needs to be taught? The Jews are so afraid. We are afraid because we still have those terrible DNA inscribed inside of fear. Jews are basically afraid.
I would be too.
Why not?
No, but when are we going to give it up?
I think there's hope.
I hope so, there's hope. I tried for 30 years of my rabbinate to remove, this is the Egypt that the Jews have even in America. Our Egypt is this fear, this darkness of what can happen to us. And therefore, we continue constantly to circle our own wagons because we don't trust anyone. It's a terrible trauma. It is. It is. That's why psychiatrists will have a field day with all the Jews. I think all the Jews need to go to psychiatrists. By the way, many of them are psychiatrists themselves because they needed to solve this trauma. Why do you think we have so many Jewish psychiatrists? It's not only because of their mothers. Part of it is because of how do you deal with this? How do you deal with a God that takes you out of Egypt to bring you to a promised land and then kills all of you? Except two. I mean, it's crazy. And what?
I said there's hope is that we have a Stephen ministry program, and Jan Brown, who helps coordinate that, went to the temple.
Went to the temple, and now we have people from temple in the Stevens. I know. We Jews need to be better Christians, and you guys need to be better Jews.
Yeah, that's right.
We can just help each other.
Yes.
You guys have traumas too. Should I line them up for you? Many of your traumas are connected to our traumas. We need a huge reconciliation committee to deal with this and forgive each other. I think most of my people already forgave you. You guys are okay. Now we need to work on the Muslims. I think most of the Jews, and some of your best friends are Jews. And I'm saying it. When you guys say it, it's a bad thing. So when I say it's fine. You have all those people that say, some of my best friends are Jews. But what else you know about that? Especially when it comes from politicians. Oh, it's terrible. So we have traumas that are connected to each other, and they need to be brought to the table and dissect and talked about. Because there are still attempts on the part of some Christian groups to make us Christians. So please stop with this, and not this church. This church never attempted, and I hope I never, ever said anything to try to evangelize you to become Jewish.
We have to look at history, as we're doing this reconciliation, we need to look at history and say, hey, this is what they did wrong. This is what we did wrong in the past.
And we too.
We need to change that to do this.
Totally. I need to get out of the Jews the notion that if you scratch a Gentile, you discover anti-Semite. I have people that believe in that. That at the core of every other person, that's why there's no trust. I mean, we are sick people. Here, I told you. There are things that needs to be worked out in our genetic makeup to try to make us better, accepting, understanding, not judging. Part of Jewish history brought us to be awful judges about the rest of the people. For example, for whatever the reasons are there, we got to this condition. We need to get out of it. What?
I think back on some of the painful times I've gone through, or some of the places I needed to grow, and the best thing I could do is get out of myself and help somebody else. That helped me heal.
When you don't think about yourself only. Yeah? It's about discovering the other. The other has amazing healing powers if we just let it go. Allow for this to happen. Yesterday was wonderful at the temple with so many people sitting with each other, and there was no need. I made a comment for them to move around. After a while, everyone was sitting with other people. You don't have to, because we all are interested, we are yearning for the touch of the other. It's amazing the healing powers that people have in them to be able to help us?
Recently, I've talked to a couple of Jewish people that I know
I'm sorry.
that are married to, so I don't-
Give me the names. I can tell you what the problems are.
We know Larry, right? And they're skeptical about the tri-faith concept. Not the concept. They think it's all great and good, but they want the hard conversations to take place. And more so with the Muslims probably than the Christians from what these two people said. This isn't representing all. But I'm wondering when and how those hard conversations begin, because
Chris, are you hearing this?
the little bit I've experienced, and I'm kind of new on board with this just since last fall, but I feel like there's the meeting that we had brainstorming ideas for the calendar and events and stuff, that there was a need to proceed with baby steps and caution to kind of build the trust first before you sit down and have the hard conversations. And the point that these two different individuals made to me is that kind of like if it's all just fluff and dinners and polite conversation, that's not what they feel they really need from it. They want to have the hard conversations. They want to know, are these Muslims calling for the destruction of Israel and want to annihilate our people? I mean, those are the kind of questions that are burning in their minds, you know.
So are they willing to start with the baby steps? Are they there, or they're just talking to you with... They're not involved yet.
I don't know if I was representing correctly because I'm kind of new to this, but I said, I think we're starting with the baby steps with that being the end goal to have those
Oh my God,
hard
totally.
conversations.
I mean, you already know my character. You know Chris. You think that Chris and I are willing to continue with this, with baby steps? Are you kidding? We just started this morning. I want the fireworks now. Yeah.
But you've been working on this for 20 years.
Right.
And you've gone through all those baby steps and baby steps and baby steps. You're to that point. Are the Jewish people, I think that you often have to have a relationship with a person sometimes, know who they are before you can get to those really hard conversations. Because there's got to be a trust there between the two of you.
Well, we're trying to build it. I know that we are doing it now among the clergy. We have meetings with the clergy on a regular basis, and we are discovering differences. I'm not sure about everything about each of the clergy yet. I definitely feel very comfortable with the clergy here. The imam is going to create some interesting conversation. Get ready for that. So what?
We need to have that conversation.
Believe me, it's coming. It's coming. So this Thursday, we're going to announce the selection of the first executive director. We have a lot of hope in this executive director. I mean, we have to remember now that all the clergy have also to run their own congregations. We couldn't do everything so fast, but now it's going to be a level of opening a whole different chapter to the relationship of the tri-faith, and they include a serious conversation that you are yearning. Are you going to be able to sit in a chair hearing awful things? Are you ready? Are you ready for the conversation? It's are you?
Yeah, I think after the last class that I took last week with the mom, that was the first time I felt disturbed after leaving.
Beautiful.
And
Disturb is
all
good.
of a sudden, it was kind of like a wake up to reality, because up to that point, everything sounded, wonderful, and I could embrace and appreciate even if I didn't agree, but it challenged me a little bit what I was hearing, and it disturbed me enough to.
You are just at the beginning. It's okay. So disturbed you. Fantastic. all of you are going to be disturbed once we start that serious conversation, and it's coming. Yes?
Do you think, because Christianity is the majority religion, do you think that we, as you say, we're going to be made uncomfortable, but I don't think we're going to be nearly as uncomfortable as probably our Jewish and our Muslim friends, because don't you think that makes a difference?
No, I think you're going to be disturbed too. There'll be so many other topics that at this moment they are not listed in my mind. But if the conversation, we can go to different parts of history between Christianity and Judaism that are going to be very disturbed. I don't think the conversation will be just in the Middle East. That conversation will take place. But there will be topics about ecology, about the world, about poverty, about hunger, about so many things that we need to come together. I mean, it's like a shopping list for Costco. No, but we're not going to talk only about relationship with each other. We're going to talk about the relationship with the world around us and the Creator around us, and to try to lift the sparks in order to get to the roots. I mean, so there'll be other conversations that are going to be unpleasant and disturbing.
After all, this
None of you is going to go to your grave in a comfortable manner. Are you ready for the ride? This is Disney rides, you know, up and down the carousel. This is our lives anyway. We're finally going to admit that we need those conversations to help us, sustain us during those rides. I am going to go out of this world completely exhausted. Who wants to join me in leaving this world completely exhausted? That's it. That's what the life is all about.
Well, that's what our world is today.
But the world was always exhausting.
It was exhausting, but it's even more exhausting because...
Because we allow this to be more exhausting.
Well, and we're more globally related to the world.
Fantastic.
It used to be that we were just relating to Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah, Friedman's book.
In our backyard, yeah.
Friedman's book. It's a must book to read. The world is flat. It's so flat.
Any more, yeah.
Okay. Any comments? Any feedback?
I was just going to say that if we talk about interfaith relationship, most of us are good at that, but we have probably a lifetime history of relating to other denominations, and that certainly is not easy. I
No,
mean,
and we can bring...
Certainly, we're a minority strain within the group of Christianity, and there are certainly groups of Christians that find us totally heretics.
Totally. Well, it's interesting about the movement. I mean, I went to the bishop, the Catholic bishop, on the first day. How about joining us in a tri-faith? I mean, so my journey started there when we went through Episcopalians. You know, we went through all kind of conversations. It's okay. Those are our journeys in the desert. That's our desert.
Sure. You mentioned you couldn't officiate at a wedding in Israel. Chris couldn't at certain churches in town in Omaha.
Oh, yeah. That's typical. I mean, my dad was a minister, and he was not allowed to pronounce a marriage in a different denomination.
Yeah.
Sure.
That minister had to. So, I mean, that's been around for a long, long time. It would be nice if it would go away, but
It'll take a whole revolution to do this. I want you. We have a few more minutes. So the same verse. Go to the next page. Something very strange in the text that we read. I'm reading it to you now. Moses wrote their coming forth and their journeys by the word of God. These are their journeys and coming forth. What's usually the question that comes from the people who are trying to do commentary for the Torah? What's strange about this?
Usually it's going up to God.
Yeah, and also why twice? Why do we have too many words in the Bible. The Bible is very laconic in its language. So every time you see extra material, you have to ask the question why. And of course, when you ask why, you come up with commentary. So the next pages are a few commentary about why the journeys going forth, it's twice in the text. So who would like to pick up the reading? It starts with, why does the order change? Anyone? Please.
Why does the order change? First, the verse refers to their comings forth and their journeys, then to their journeys and comings forth.
Yeah, why the repetition? Go on.
It is known that all the children of Israel's journeys in that great and awesome wilderness were designed by Yahweh. They were for the purpose of bringing forth holy sparks that had fallen into the shells there, to take what the evil one had swallowed from his mouth.
Okay. So we don't have in Judaism conversation about Satan or the devil. The devil made me do it. You'll never have a Jew say it. Ever. But we definitely recognize evil. So what was the purpose of the journeys again? We talked about this. The lifting of the sparks. Remember what I taught? 16th century Kabbalah in Tzfat. The Ari from Tzfat, the rabbi from Tzfat, with the blue synagogue. When you go to Tzfat one day, when you go to Israel, you will be attracted, navigated to see that synagogue, blue synagogue, because the blue of the heaven, that's what he created there. And it's still there from the 16th century. And he came up and said how the world was created. God loves us. God shrunk himself. Remember I told you this story already. I'm repeating it here. Back to discover the sparks. And in the space that God withdrew from the world, God created the world. Now there was an explosion, some kind of an accident. Some people call it Big Bang. This rabbi called it explosion, where the light that God took from the space that God withdrew from was put into jars, into vessels of clay. Those vessels of clay exploded, and the world became filled with shards and sparks. And so the role of humanity is to collect all the light that was spread all over and to separate the light from the shards. So social justice is the work of separating the sparks from the shards. Tikkun Olam, something you already know the phrase Tikkun Olam. Tikkun Olam is mending the world. So you will hear a lot in Jewish circles the conversation about Tikkun Olam, the mending of the world in the kingdom of God. That's justice. So justice is not there to provide a meal for a person that is hungry. We need to understand that act as part of repairing the world for the sake of God. We do justice work because we want to mend the world for the sake of God. We're not doing it to feel good about what we're doing. I love the Boy Scouts mentality of so many people. Oh, you know, I see this woman wanting to cross the street and she carrying 2 heavy bags. I see her on Monday. So I'm helping, stopping the car, helping her move. On Tuesday, I'm there. She's there too. I do it again on Tuesday. By Wednesday, I'm sick and tired of that woman. And I'm not getting out of my car. That's where Boy Scout mentality of justice exists. Justice is, it's not about you, stupid. It's not about how you feel. On Thursday, you need to do it too. On Friday, you have to do it too. On Sunday, you have to do it too. That's the difference between Boy Scouts' American religion, which is atrocious, because it's limited. We do a soup kitchen once a month. Oh wow, great. Limited Boy Scout mentality and work of justice that has to be done for the sake of God. All the justice that we do is for the sake of God and repairing the world. That's the issue. So here again, I have total agreement from her. Total agreement from her.
It's my fault.
So here is what happened. The purpose of bringing forth holy sparks that had fallen into the shells, into the Egypt, into the darkness, there to take what the evil one had swallowed from his mouth. There's evil in the world, and we need to be able to rescue the sparks that are falling into the evil mouth. It's a full-time job. Continue reading, please.
This is why Israel camped at some places for a long time, while others stopped for grief. All was in accord with the redeeming of sparks that needed to happen.
That's why they stay someplace a week in the wandering, and sometimes they stay 2 years in one place. Did you ever ask yourself why? I told you already, with a good camel, 3 days. They were able to be in the promised land in 3 days. 600,000, and all the people had joined them. No, it didn't happen. Because we sometimes pay the price by remaining in the same place because of things we need to fix in ourselves. Did you wonder ever why it took you so long to get over something that was bad? How come sometimes we can recover fast after a loss, and sometimes we stay in the place of grief for years without getting out?
Because we haven't come to terms with that relationship that we had with that person.
Yeah, this is the desert that we wander. That's what we wander. We don't know why we are stuck in a place, in relationship with someone for a long time. For a long time, those two brothers didn't talk to each other. They finally arrived at the grave when I buried their father. And so I asked, what's happening? What happened? How can you be away from each other for 20 years without talking? Oh, because at one time in the childhood, what? You're still in the level of the child? When are you going to grow up? 20 years of sacrificing relationship for what? For what? This is the period of desert that that person spent. And there was a way for them to collect the right sparks at that time and move on and see each other like brothers. What happened? That's your work. That's what you do. It's a miserable work you have. I don't envy you, but you're offering tools for people to use in order for them to understand who they are. But if we understand the desert of our lives, if we look back at those moments when we were looking for water, for wisdom, for oxygen, that's how we are stuck in those places. That's why we need to spend more time in figuring out how to heal ourselves. And I agree, sometimes we can't do it by ourselves. Sometimes we cannot do it by ourselves. But many times, if we invest a little bit more thinking and more work, we can do it by ourselves. We don't want to do it. We're afraid. We're leery about those kind. If I talk to him, what if he doesn't like me? So what? We need to give everything we have in order to reach a true peaceful relationship with siblings, with children, with the boss at work, in work. All over the place. It's all about relationship. This world doesn't have anything else except relationship. We don't grow up of staying for a long period of time in our desert. We need to figure out a way to remove from the place where we are stuck, to remove from the shards and look for the sparks. That's our job. Yes?
And the problem with the day...
The challenge. Don't ever use the word problem with me.
The challenge with the Day of Atonement is that we're looking for a scapegoat.
Oh, it was so easy in the Bible time You take 2 goats, you put a sign on them that they are going to hell. That's the word, Azazel. And you send them to the desert. Whoa! I'm cleansed. By the way, you have an issue with Jesus. When are we going to talk about that? You're thinking only the Middle East is an issue? When are we going to talk about Jesus and the way you guys view Jesus versus how we view Jesus?
Next week.
And the price we pay for the way you look at Jesus. Not you. I'm just making general. It's huge. My people are not even ready for that conversation because they already forgave you. They don't understand it. I spoke a few times from the bima, from the pulpit, about the way we look at Jesus, to try to explain. It's something they don't want to talk about. We suffer enough. No. Having countryside church will help us because you guys are not so extreme. We can talk to the Baptists or the other Lutherans. I had debates with the other Lutherans in their church. It's a completely different world, the way they look at me versus the way other Lutherans look. So that's complicated. But I'm ready for that conversation because I want to die exhausted. And God, I hope you guys want to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you.